Good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Wednesday. It is the 28th day of May, 2025, and we have three huge headlines that greet us this morning. First of all, Israel has launched new airstrikes on the Houthis, and in doing so, they also have threatened Iran. This is from Israel HaYom. Israel HaYom also has this story for us: 7-hour notice. U.S. on edge over Netanyahu Iran threat. In other words, he's going to give the U.S. a 7-hour notice if he's going to attack and bomb Iran. And finally, on another subject, Zelensky calls for three-way talks with Trump and Putin, calls for new sanctions if Russia refuses peace. Breitbart. So three huge international stories we're going to look at. Headline number one: Israel launches new airstrikes on the Houthis. Again, this is from Israel Hayom. The IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, announces Operation Golden Jewel as jets hit Iranian proxy's facilities at Sanaa Airport just weeks after a similar mission to end the constant firing of missiles on Israeli towns. The Israeli Air Force executed precise airstrikes on Houthi-controlled infrastructure at Sanaa International Airport in Yemen, the Ministry of Defense said on Wednesday, coming day after two missiles were launched by the Iranian proxy on Israel and weeks after the IDF all but destroyed the Yemeni capital's main flying hub. The Israeli jets obliterated terrorist infrastructure at the airport and took out the Houthis' latest operational aircraft, Defense Minister Israel Katz declared, while revealing this new mission was called Operation Golden Jewel. He continued saying, "This is a clear message and direct continuation of the policy we established. Whoever fires toward the state of Israel will pay heavy prices. The ports in Yemen will continue to be severely damaged, and the airport in Sana'a will be destroyed again and again, as will other strategic infrastructures in the region that serve the Houthi terrorist organization and its supporters. The Houthi terrorist organization will be under maritime and aerial siege, as we committed and warned. Whoever harms us will be harmed sevenfold." Prime Minister Netanyahu issued the following statement: "The Air Force struck again now at the airport at Sana'a, which is controlled by the Houthi terrorist regime in Yemen. We operate according to a simple principle. Whoever harms us, we will harm them. Whoever doesn't understand that with this force, will understand with even more force. But as I've said many times, here's the key: the Houthis are just the symptoms. The main power standing behind them is Iran, and it is responsible for the aggression coming out of Yemen. The IDF struck at the main airport in Sana'a a short while ago. Aircraft used by the Houthi terrorist organization for the transfer of terrorists who planned terrorist attacks against Israel were also struck, the IDF said. The main airport of Sana'a is continuously operated by the Houthi terrorist regime for terror purposes, and the IDF is determined to continue to operate against any threat to Israeli citizens wherever necessary. It further noted, like the Hodeidah and Al Salif ports targeted last week, Sanaa's primary airport is consistently run by the Houthi regime for terror operations. The IDF highlighted this as further evidence of the Houthi terror group's ruthless misuse of civilian facilities for terrorist acts. All right, that's from Israel Hayom. And they also said the airstrikes on Wednesday and in several instances before and over the past year come in response, of course, the repeated Houthi missile and drone assaults on Israel all throughout the October 7th, including a drone that exploded in central Tel Aviv in 2024. So they've been going at it since the Hamas invasion, October 7th, 2023. The strikes continued, and here's the sad thing: despite a ceasefire between the Houthis and the Trump administration, under which free passage of shipping not destined to Israel was guaranteed. The deal Trump made, we won't bomb you if you don't bomb us. And so the U.S. has gotten out of there. And so now the problem is, of course, Israel has been left on its own. Now, the Jerusalem Post had this to say: we acknowledged it in the article. The first article didn't really touch on this, but Defense Minister Katz said Israel was in the process of instituting an aerial and naval blockade of the Houthis. So this is huge. In other words, we're going to keep everything away, either by air or by sea, from you reaching you people. This is going to be the result of you attacking us, and you will pay much more dearly. Now, here's my comments on this, and very important we understand what's going on. The United States certainly cannot object to Israel defending itself against these constant missile attacks from the Houthis, including instituting an air and naval blockade against these terrorists. It's also great to see that Netanyahu was not shy about saying that the ultimate culprit was Iran. So, whatever conversations he's had in the last week or so with Trump or some of Trump's representatives, it has not stopped him from continuing to loudly and publicly point the finger at the real problem. Now it seems we must wait and see what the U.S. is going to do with Iran. Kristi Noem supposedly told Netanyahu, give us a week. Okay, are we going to get another bad deal with Iran, a JCPOA too? Well, who knows? But for the sake of Israel, as well as for the future of the United States, let's pray that this does not happen. And as we mentioned, Genesis 12, 1 to 3 is still in the Bible. God promises to bless those who bless the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to curse those who curse them. And if a bad deal is made with Iran that is bad for the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the United States will pay the price for it. So, all in all, it seems something big may happen soon. We'll keep you posted. Pray, pray, pray. Now, we have a second story that highlights some of the things we just talked about. This is also from Israel HaYom. 7-hour notice. U.S. on edge over Netanyahu Iran threat. According to Trump administration officials who spoke with the New York Times, the Israeli leader made it clear Israel might take out enrichment facilities in the Islamic Republic, leading to a rare standoff between the two allies. Prime Minister Netanyahu has threatened to launch strikes against Iran's primary nuclear facilities, while President Donald Trump attempts to negotiate a nuclear agreement with Tehran, according to officials familiar with the discussions. The disagreement over the most effective approach to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons has resulted in at least one heated telephone conversation between Trump and Netanyahu, along with numerous high-level meetings between the American and Israeli officials in recent days, the New York Times reported. Trump stated Sunday that something good might emerge from his efforts to restrict Iran's nuclear program within the next 2 days. And that was Sunday, and today is Wednesday now. It's been more than 2 days, the New York Times reported. Now, here's what's fascinating. And if this is true, it's beyond pathetic. Sources knowledgeable about the negotiations indicated that at most there would be an announcement of shared principles, according to the New York Times. The specifics under consideration remain confidential and would likely establish groundwork for additional negotiations, beginning with whether Iran could continue uranium enrichment at any level and how it would reduce its stockpile of near weapons grade material. All right, in other words, the big announcement would be there would be supposedly a meeting of the minds. They're going to establish groundwork and between the two countries to determine what's going to take place in the future. So here's my thought of this. If this is what Trump is planning on announcing, it is less than worthless. Shared principles, that's going to be the big news. Who is kidding whom? From the nation, this is from the nation that continues to export terrorism around the globe and has only got one thought in mind, the terrorist spread of jihad. So Shia Islam could eventually take over the world, according to their theology of the last days. Now, whatever will be announced, it does not seem to be something substantive, just more delay, delay, delay from Iran with their promises from which they have no intention of ever keeping. Again, we must wait and see what's going to take place, but this looks like where it's all going. And again, only time will tell. Kristi Noem told Netanyahu a couple of days ago, give us a week. So I guess the clock is ticking, so we will see. Now, moving on to another front, because we have another huge international problem, of course, between Russia and Ukraine, with the United States trying to bring about some type of ceasefire there. Headline 3 from Breitbart. Zelensky calls for three-way talks with Trump and Putin, calls for new sanctions if Russia refuses peace. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky called for trilateral leaders talks between himself, the U.S., and Russia, while Moscow said that the next round of direct talks will be announced soon. Weeks after the first-person talks between Russia and Ukraine ended in apparent failure, with no progress towards peace or even a ceasefire beyond an agreement for a prisoner exchange, fresh talks appear to be again on the horizon. After Russia's Vladimir Putin failed to acquiesce to Zelensky's invitation to have a leaders' meeting earlier in May, the Ukrainian has suggested a trilateral format instead. He said if Putin is not comfortable with a bilateral meeting, or everyone wants it to be or everyone wants it to be a trilateral meeting, I don't care. I'm ready for any format. Zelensky said that of the leaders' meetings available, reports Ukraine state media, we are ready to meet at the level of leaders. Both the American side knows this and the Russian side knows this. We are ready for the Trump, Putin, me format. We are ready for the Trump, Putin, Trump, Zelensky, and then the three of them. Now, beyond the meeting between the presidents themselves and President Trump has already said such a discussion would be essential for forging peace. He wants to be the mediator in all this and to forge the peace between Ukraine and Russia, as we've been talking about. Zelensky also said he wanted European engagement in future talks because it is the states of Europe who have said they are willing to guarantee Ukrainian security in the future, albeit on the condition of American backup. On the minds of many are the next steps if Russia continues its feet dragging over the peace process, with President Trump having previously suggested secondary tariffs, the levying of punishment of countries that buy Russian goods and energy. Zelensky was naturally enthusiastic for this, remarking Trump's confirmed that if Russia does not stop, sanctions will be imposed. I would like that very much. All right, so here's our thoughts. Of course, this is another major problem that must be dealt with. Will there be a three-way meeting? If so, will anything come out of it? Or will Putin just move ahead militarily and not concern himself with any sanctions the West will put on Russia? Again, there are many possible ways in which this could go. And as with our previous two stories, we just have to wait and see. So, for our purposes, each of these stories today have huge implications in the biblical scenario of the last days. The United States, for whatever reason, is not a player, while Israel is front and center, as well as Russia, which will lead this last days invasion of Israel, according to Ezekiel 38 and 39. Again, we do know how everything will eventually turn out, but nobody knows precisely how we're going to get there. We have documented the biblical scenario in our 12 books on Bible prophecy from our website, Educating Our World, including the book 25 Signs We're Near the End, and another book, Look Up a Timeline of 50 Last Days Events. All our books are free downloads. We don't charge for anything. This is our ministry. Please take advantage of them. And with all these stories, we'll just keep you posted and see what's going to happen next. Anyone's guess. There is never a dull moment here. I'm Don Stewart. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless you.